And now, a musical number. From the moment we open the replay and blinking drive out of the spawn, watch the ping number high and the packet loss rise. Decline stability is about to be done. There's far too much American bias, and the axis is just having fun. But there's a moisture tonight on Stalin's right thigh. The potato race is about to be run. It's the potato truck and diving on the Dishka. Let them feel our bias as the red faction riots till we find our place at the top of the leaderboards. Yeah, it's the Uncle Stalin's milk truck. Welcome back to the channel, lads and ladies, and welcome to a shameful display of Russian bias, fear, and loathing, brought to you by... I wasn't ready for this part. Torstein, of course it was. Anyway, this was that, and that was this, and I hope you enjoyed. Really, no extra commentary necessary. Next up, Admiral Hip Hip in the XP55 Ascender. Hooray! One of my original favorite premiums for this game, and an aircraft that has received something of a new lease on life after its up tier to 4.0 battle rating, which is entirely appropriate for the smoothly handling pusher prop. Two things that are somewhat rare in War Thunder in general. One of the weak points of this aircraft is that it has somewhat of a slow roll rate for a air superiority fighter, but I mentioned that it has received a new lease on life, and that goes along with the cannon buff to American 20 mils that happened some time ago. At the same time, this is an aircraft that has a rather adequate 20 mil ammo count, but even more importantly, two of those cannons mounted in the nose of the aircraft close together. You don't have to wait for convergence. This is a low tier CAS monster if that's how you want to play it. Add to that the fact that this has an extremely small profile and good energy management characteristics. All those things combined to make this a very capable multi-role fighter in the right hands of someone looking to do a little bit of cannon CAS at the upper low tier. And yet, Admiral Hip Hip taking this plane into its intended environment, mid to high altitude dogfighting, picking up 2 kills already, and surveying the skies for targets of opportunity more. In air RB matches, not only is this plane capable of climbing and engaging enemy bombers with its good armament and fantastic aiming capabilities, but it's also, as before mentioned, good at managing energy and overall solid in handling at most speeds, with the exception of the roll rate, which can be taken advantage of by things like the Focke-Wulf and even PF-109s or Italian starships that you might face. No, not that one. The lower tier ones. Speaking of the Focke-Wulf, we've got an enemy Hitler Bolt down there, I think. And a Focke-Wulf. Who to go for? Well, probably whoever's lowest on energy and highest in altitude. Focke-Wulf it is. Taking some shots and getting the hit that he needed on the tail of the enemy plane. Only 1 or 2 20mm cannon rounds. Still enough to shred the tail of that enemy fighter. Damage models in War Thunder are damage models in War Thunder. It is nice to get a kill every now and then when you hit your target. This message brought to you by LA7 gang. But Russian 20mm aren't terrible. You just gotta hit critical components with them. You have to headshot enemy airplanes. Yeah, that sounds a little tricky, but it's doable. One of the other things that stands out about the XP-55, other than the fact that everything stands out about this plane, it's a very bold design. It has one of the smallest engines and smallest propellers at this tier. You're used to seeing things like the P-47 and the Corsair coming up in the ranks, and even the... excuse me. Oh, I've got a little bit of the sleepy. Even the earlier American fighters seem to have larger, beefier engines and big, flat-bladed propellers to scoop as much air as possible. And the Ascender is really a different animal, built almost with an elegant design concept. It smoothly glides through the air where other American powerhouses beat their way through the skies with sheer power of horsepower. I mean, other than the Mustang, of course, but even that's something of a beast. In any event, Admiral Hip Hip, with a quick 5 kills, barely able to be commented on. He's managed his energy well. He picked his targets at the right time, and he took them down with, if at all lacking in precision, volume of fire that the XP-55 is definitely able to produce. And with that death beam of death going with a head-on against the P-47, wisely pulling away and into a barrel roll or two, now easily jumping onto the tail of the P-47, which is not so capable at performing maneuvers at these kinds of speeds. Hip Hip will have a little bit of time to try and get his guns on target against this better accelerating foe. That is, if the P-47 would decide to fly like a P-47 and nose down to safety and fly less like a Bf-109. In fact, now that we're in this death spiral, I'm not sure exactly what this enemy pilot is thinking, other than maybe if I get down to the deck I can get a little help from my friends. But now, in a rolling scissors, the P-47 is definitely going to be outclassed by the much more capable energy management of the XP-55. Going into the vertical, a risky move to try and get his guns on target, but the nimble, smaller aircraft easily dodges and goes into a dive to gather some speed for some more maneuvers. Now would be a good time to try and slide into a vertical spiral, as you see Hip Hip doing here. The P-47 just doesn't have the energy to follow those kinds of maneuvers, but oddly enough, Hip Hip turns away instead of pursuing the Jug. Does he know something that we don't? I think what he knows is that he's out of ammunition. Maybe at least out of 20 mils, and I think even the 50 cals run out of ammo faster because they have the same ammo count and they fire a little bit more rapidly. So Hip Hip is heading back toward his airfield, and the P-47 is going to take far too long to catch up at this altitude. After a rearm, refuel, and repair, maybe grabbing a little soda on the airfield for the 15 seconds that it took all that to happen, the pilot of Hip Hip's air superiority fighter is now capable of taking down the last enemy left on the field. Not sure what happened to that P-47, but he's not a part of the picture anymore, and Hip Hip, now with an easy advantage on one of the least nimble of the fighters that he's faced today, is able to get that critical engine fire and take down his 6th foe for the win in this match. Very nicely done, all of it by himself with no team support. Fantastic move. Now, T-80? T-something. It's the one with the snorkel. Anyway, yet another Soviet frying pan, this time piloted by the capable hands of J. Kruger. So we'll see how Freddy Boy does here. See what I did there, Freddy Krueger? It's a Nightmare on Elm Street reference. But we'll see if his gameplay today will be a dream or a nightmare or both. Taking down a Leo A1 steak sauce is generally a nice way to start the match, and already up to 3 kills as he takes down a sweetie boy as well. The CV90 chassis used so much for the modern vehicles of the Sweden line for reasons that are entirely sensible. Until you take any kind of damage in the game of War Thunder. And then, well, you just hold break and you jump into another CV90. Do you see how this game works now? But this will be the last replay of today. And again, thanks to everybody that's sent in your replays. It seems like this one just went by so quickly. But I tried to condense things just to fit, again, more replays into a video. I definitely wanted to highlight these 3 people who've sent in very interesting content, and as always, it's nice to see what you all send in. Now, Mr. Kruger is going to hold down this position very effectively, and yet that's also going to mean that he needs the support of his team members to hold the other points on the map. So we'll see how that works out. With already 4 kills, he has a good start, and this is definitely a power position as long as nobody pulls off the dank flank closer to the enemy spawn there. And as well, seeing that the coast was mostly clear and getting his cannon barrel up in time, he takes down yet another Leopard variant. It seems like Germans get 100 different flavors of leopard until they start getting the Leo too. But that's just the way it is now, isn't it? And they do seem to be rather distinct from each other for the most part. Taking a hit, can Kruger get the shot on his foe? Nope, rubble is gonna block his one shot there, and it looks like he might miss his chance to flow. Opportunity knocked, and the enemy is going to blow him away. Firing into the optics of the enemy tank does score him a little bit more score and SP, but it's not going to be enough to take down the enemy tank. And while he did push out there, I don't think Kruger had a shot at him in any event, as the Ariete takes him down. Definitely a very capable foe, and Kruger with more respawns for sure after that initial rampage to try and wrest the victory away from the enemy team. I don't often talk about things like defending a cap zone. That's not really my style. I try to move from one good firing position to another when I'm not flying CAS, and that's often what you see from the people that send in replays to me. So it's always nice to see a more defensive methodology. There's a huge scale of aggression and carefulness that you can slide along when you're adjusting your strategies in War Thunder, and holding down a cap zone in this domination mode is definitely one of those ways that you can change up how you play to try and get some better results. Whenever I have a rough match in War Thunder, I think, okay, why did this happen? What went wrong? And I keep a running figure of how aggressive I'm being. I tend to be a little bit less aggressive when I'm getting back into the feel of the game, but if I'm really familiar with the map and I have a pretty good idea of where the enemy is, then I give myself more license to be aggressive. And yet, at higher tier, that is a strategy that you see a bit less. The defensive playstyle is definitely the most reliable in the game, if not the most consistently rewarding. So you definitely have to balance between finding those good spots with soft and or hard cover between you and the advancing enemy, with the tension that if you're in a great spot and the enemy just goes around you, there's really nothing that you can do about that. Speaking of helplessness, that Sherman is a bit outclassed at this tier, wouldn't you say? And another, what was that, Italian MBT was not fast enough on figuring out where that enemy fire was coming from, but yet another Leopard, and this one, I think the premium does get a shot on our guy, but it's not the shot he needed, as Kruger is able to take down the foe for his 9th kill, all of them holding down the C-cap, which has not been claimed by the enemy up to this point. I can't say as much for the rest of the map, and that goes to show that if you're not camping both enemy spawns, then there's definitely stuff that the enemy can do to get around a solid defense. And other than using close air support to take down deeply entrenched enemy vehicles, as he saw that Huey doing, you can see he's got his cockpit doors out for Harambe. That actually gives you better tactical awareness when you're in cockpit view. You can hear what's going on around you, and that's very helpful in a helicopter. A quick heli tip for you all. With the BMP, it really looked like that missile hit, but it could be that the ATGM just exploded at its maximum range. Not going to be so easy to take down the enemy Huey as he repositions to find more targets. Now, it looked like his rails were empty, but that could just be a replay thing, that Huey might have more ATGMs to launch at ground targets, as it does appear he's still lurking in the battlefield, and an enemy jet this time takes down Kruger, who's not done yet. He was truly dedicated to holding down the C point, and as you can see, he has been doing his job this whole time, picking up a 10th kill, all of them in this one tract of land, and the rest of his team either supporting him here. Oh my goodness, the enemy is actually decapping Kruger. Now is your time to shine. Go, cut him up. And you can see that his teammates are doing their best to hold the rest of the field to the best of their ability. But again, this is a high tier match. There's very strong opposition being put up by the enemy team, spawning in casts and a multitude of vehicles to try and take down their foes, even respawning in the Mickey Mouse truck pizza wagon to try and make a difference here. And that decap did cost Kruger's team some valuable victory points. In the end, the ticket bleed will see Kruger's team go down, but well fought nonetheless. Big thanks to everybody that sent in a replay, and I'm looking forward to covering the rest of those that have been sent in. Follow the link in the Discord to connect with me and send in your own replays. Catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye. Hey, Guppy. Say like and subscribe.
Subscribe to the channel.